Now, coming up at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the other semifinal matchup in the ACC tournament. Virginia, a 2.5-point favorite against NC State, total of 121.5. My raw numbers make this closer to Virginia minus 1.5. So not a big enough edge to call it an advantage when it comes to the betting market and trying to maybe bet NC State, especially with the Wolfpack coming off of 3 straight games. Haslametrics makes the game around a pick'em, but again, typically advanced metric sites aren't baking in teams playing in 2 or 3 straight conference tournament games, which the Wolfpack, even though they knocked off Duke, have done, also beating Syracuse and Louisville. Rest in peace to Kenny Payne's short tenure with the Cardinals. And for anybody that bet Boston College plus 5.5 in the quarterfinals against Virginia, my apologies, losing by 6 to the Hoos in overtime. What are you looking for in the second leg of the semifinals in the ACC tournament?
Ooh, yeah, I think the context here is really important. I think understanding that NC State will be playing their 4th straight day is important. I think when you play Virginia, it requires a level of discipline, patience, perseverance. The pace is going to be slow. They're so good defensively that you almost end up beating yourselves when you play Virginia. And so if this game was, if State was coming off even one game, I think I'd be a lot more confident in the Wolfpack. I think they've gotten a ton of help from their supporting cast over the past couple of nights. O'Connell's made a bunch of shots. That wasn't really happening early. DJ Horn is an absolute agent of chaos. He seems healthy. He can get to the rim when he wants. Burns is a load inside, but in general, I've always kind of assumed that Kevin Keatts prefers playing faster, and obviously Tony Benn does not prefer that. And so the contrasting styles there give me pause. I agree with you. Probably a pick'em. I lean the Wahoos, though, here. Tony Benn is consistent, man. I don't think they're that good this year, but it's also a testament that they finished 3rd in the league and they've won that many games. I think my favorite thing from looking at Virginia over this past season was they finished 3rd in the league and had a negative point differential. And they were like 5 games above 500. Like, how does that happen? Kind of thing. So it should be a really interesting game. And, a lot of State fans, I've seen the feels like 83, feels like 87. Could be feels like 2007. I think they made a run, and that ACC tournament was also not in North Carolina. I think it was in Tampa. So I expect a slog of a game, but I would lead Virginia in this one.
You mentioned point differential and Virginia's luck. KenPom pretty much says just that, and so does Haslametrics. But you look at KenPom's luck factor, Virginia ranks number 9 in that metric, and nearly 40% of their wins have come by 2 possessions or fewer. So that pretty much correlates to your point about their point differential. Now, NC State coming off that huge win over Duke is an 11-point underdog, and you mentioned trying to generate transition opportunities. They're going to have to, but they're also going to have to hit a lot of threes, you would think, against the pack line, unless this is just some sort of chaotic variance game where who knows what we're going to expect. Wolfpack shot 7 of 16 from behind the arc against Duke. DJ Horn with 18 points off the bench. 3 games in 3 days, though I should say. That would be a lot of games in one day for NC State. But Virginia also ranks number 354 in free throw percentage across college basketball. So just something to keep in mind. I know they've fared well in close games, and you do have 2 theoretical pros in Beekman and Dunn, which could catapult you in a game of this magnitude with limited possessions, especially with the way Beekman and Dunn guard. But on a neutral, when these 2 teams are well rested, pick them. Like I mentioned, Haslam doesn't necessarily account for 3 games in 3 days for NC State. But I'm with you. I think I would have to lean with the Wahoos on the money line.
Yeah, agreed. And I know these 2, this will be the 3rd meeting, and I think State smacked them in Raleigh. I think they won by 16, and they really didn't turn over the ball in that game. But up there, as it typically happens in Charlottesville, it turns into a game where, again, you can beat yourself. And if you're giving them extra possessions, they're making mistakes, and they're only playing a 60, 61 possession game, those are going to add up. So Virginia, just super consistent. I think, like I said, I wouldn't want to play them at all just because of the style, but I think they're extremely beatable. But in this spot, I would lean Virginia just based on history and knowing what State's had to do over the past 3 nights. And It's hard to believe in that at one point on Tuesday night you were saying Louisville might beat them, and here we are. They're a game away from making the tournament finals.